What is an industry secret that you know? The stuff that makes movie theater popcorn taste like movie theater popcorn is called flavacol. It's a salt-like additive that you can buy yourself and add to your popcorn at home. A carton lasts forever because you only need like a teaspoon of flavacol per cup of kernels, and it's indistinguishable from the popcorn you get at the movies. Just last night, we were playing a gig, and my guitarist said he was going to show us a little trick he uses to get everyone on the dance floor. Over the mic he asked everyone to come up in front of the stage, so we could get a group picture of everyone who came to the show. As soon as he got the pic, we started playing, and everyone stayed on the floor until the end of the set. It was great. Theater seats aren't all the same size. Some are narrower than others. We use a variety to manipulate the sawtooth arrangement so that you look through a gap between heads, not straight into the head of the person in front of you. That means some seats are better, for example, wider than others. Mind effing blown. We'll investigate next time at theater. They usually range from 19 inches to 22 inches. I try not to use less than 20, but sometimes you need a couple of 19s to make it work. If you're really lucky, you might find the odd 23 inches or 24 inches. ER veterinarian. When your pets are hospitalized, or need to stay at the clinic, unless they're aggressive, need to be monitored very carefully, or we're absolutely slammed, they are constantly getting positive attention from the staff. I've had kennel attendants and techs cuddle up with patients on their breaks. Myself and colleagues have made phone calls or typed up records. While holding on to your pets, we routinely talk about how cute the patients are. In fact, it's a running joke that we would get fired immediately if we worked in human medicine, etc. And we do get attached to your pets. We know that your pet got into your weed, and we truly don't care. Seriously. Just be honest. We operate on a triage basis. Sicker things are seen first, regardless of how long others have been waiting. If you're a shitty person, and you're constantly up front complaining to staff about the wait times, or the decor, or why there isn't enough staff, being difficult in other ways, being dismissive to the non-doctors, and your pet is stable and has been triaged similarly to another pet that came in around the same time, we're not picking up your file until we have to. So much of my job involves giving bad news, talking to emotional people, who often take out their feelings on those around them, and having to defend the costs of emergency care and surgery, that I'm not going to eagerly jump into taking a file for someone who's being difficult before they've even been spoken to. The machine that injects white fluff into Twinkie operates at 37 pounds per square inch. If turned up to 55, it blows the twinkle to bits and makes a big mess in the lab. I'm dying to hear how you know this. With pictures. 20 years ago, my office was adjacent to the cake lab. The lab manager liked to experiment, and we gladly participated to eat the results. Hostess has long since gone bankrupt. I have no idea what the process looks like today. When you're buying a higher-end refrigerator, you're basically only paying for fancier doors. Most of the inner workings are the same, just a different door configuration. I used to work in the appliance industry. To be fair, the difference between a low-end kitchen and a high-end kitchen is mostly fancier finishes. You can spend $150 on a melamine cabinet door, or $1,500 on a handmade exotic lumber cabinet door, and they both hide your plates the same. A high-end kitchen can have higher performance features, but as a percent of overall spend, those are way overshadowed by the aesthetics. The price hike between 36 inches and 48 inches fridges is crazy, though. As a consumer, I absolutely agree. I don't give a shit about fancy doors or an ice maker or water dispenser, and I saved a fortune on my new fridge. Or be like me, and go to outlet, and get scratch and dent. Oh, dent on side of the fridge, that is gonna be hidden by the wall? Who cares? Dent on dishwasher door. I have a pet and Roomba, they will make a dent in the first week itself. Dent on washing machine? That appliance sits in laundry room, and not centerpiece. Why do I care, if it looks pretty? Used to screen resumes for small companies. Job requirements are more of a wish list situation. Never let some unchecked boxes deter you from applying. You have no idea what the applicant pool is like. The biggest boon, especially at small companies, is someone who legitimately cares. Whenever I leave a job, I look for the posting for my replacement. They always have more requirements than they need. I wouldn't have qualified for my last 3 jobs that I had been doing for years. apply, and let them figure out if you're good enough. Manager in tech, and this is right. Caveat being that you really do need the top 3 to 6 requirements, as those are probably the first thing the hiring manager is looking for, but after that it gets more flexible. In the interview, though, just be honest. If the manager is at all smart, they are going to see through your bullshit and immediately count you out as a liar. Be honest, but talk through similar experience, and talk about how you learn new things. I can often teach knowledge, but skills, and an ability to learn, or research, is impossible to train. Most fitness models, coaches, and influencers are using anabolic steroids, or did it once at least, and among competitive bodybuilders everyone does it, but almost no one admits it. As a former competitive weightlifter, way more people use anabolic steroids than most people think. Also, that actor, who got in really good shape, and gained a bunch of muscle for a role. They're using steroids. And everyone looking muscled up in a Marvel movie, it's an open secret in the movie industry, that part of the Marvel, personal trainer, and diet package, includes roids. I hate seeing it in non-superhero movies, though, like, compare the volleyball scene in original Top Gun, to the beach football scene in Maverick. The first has guys in good shape, the second has actors ridiculously roided out. It kind of works if they're supposed to be superhuman, but if it's supposed to be the real world. I was told, during my driver training, for a public bus company, if a car pulls out in front of you, causing you to slam the brakes, hit it. Let the passengers claim insurance from the car driver. If you slam the brakes, and avoid the collision, the injured passengers will, or can sue, the bus company. Truck drivers aren't usually told this, but same for freight transport. Slamming the brakes, or swerving swiftly, can cause a mess in cargo. Then with no collision whatsoever, driver is solely responsible for the freight loss. Healthcare ID is held together with duct tape and twine. Related, pay attention to the treatment release forms. Your health data is being sent everywhere, and there's not shit you can do about it. No sign, no treatment. Edit, apparently, it is possible to opt out of your state's health information exchange, but it must be done with the exchange itself. The process varies by state, and can be painful. Nutrition labels, on small not well-known brands, can be inaccurate, and nobody would ever know. Once you send your food product out to a lab to have a nutrition label created for it, that is the last time anyone is ever going to check it. It would take someone to pay for a new analysis at a lab to see if the percentage of guar gum, for example, is still accurate, and nobody is going to do that. If you give one website your name, another website your number, and another website your email, there are services that merge info together by scanning the web and build a profile of you for ad targeting and sales. Some of you may assume this already, but it is standard practice and utilized more frequently than you might think. In the restaurant industry, the secret is that the special sauce is often just a clever blend of the same condiments you have in your fridge: mayo, ketchup, and a dash of mystery. The mystery is monosodium glutamate. A lot of restaurant food is like this. The difference between what a lot of people think is fresh and tasty, and low quality, or not fresh, is just adding a lot of butter and salt. Head chef here can confirm 98% of sauces are mayo-based. Some plus-size models get liposuction on their face and necks to be more aesthetically pleasing. I've always noticed that plus-size models and popular plus-size women tend to be those that don't carry much weight in their faces. Lipo never occurred to me, but it makes total sense. Dawn dish soap is the single best way to clean up an oil spill on the small scale. The US government went to great lengths to try and make their own cheaper, in-house equivalent of Dawn for cleaning up oil, but they found that they couldn't make it better or cheaper than Dawn already did, so they just buy Dawn. It's the #1 go-to recommendation for greasy kitchens as well. The military typically disposes of old vehicles by parking it somewhere on a large base and abandoning it. Sometimes they use them as training targets. It's cool, but eerie to see. I know where there's a lake that's full of Sherman tanks. They drove them out there in the late 50s in the winter and left them to fall through. Knowing the US military, they're not abandoned, but ready to be upgraded. Someday, we'll be seeing aquatic Shermans invading Russia, just like Patton wanted. So, the merman Shermans. I like it. Teachers routinely fudge kids' grades upward. Sometimes, it's because a kid is nice. Sometimes, it's because administrators pressure us. Sometimes, we're afraid of being sued. That high graduation rate at your local high school? It's most likely due to the books being cooked. ETA, I've said this before, but this whole situation is a prime example of Goodhart's law in action. When a metric becomes a target, it loses all meaning. The high school I teach at touts a low number of suspensions and no expulsions this year. And yet, it is almost guaranteed that a student will tell me to go F myself when I ask for his phone tomorrow. ETA again. For all the people talking about kids getting held back, that doesn't happen anymore really. I've been teaching 20 years, and I can count on one hand the number of students I've seen get held back. It's exceptionally rare. I absolutely should have failed one of my classes junior year. The teacher was on medical leave, and I didn't do any of the class work for an entire semester. When she came back, suddenly one day, she called everybody up, one by one to collect all of their work from that time to be graded. I apologized, and told her I didn't do any of it. She looked me up and down, and said, "Well, I'll give you a C, for honesty." Really dumb of me to not do the work, but she always liked me because I was quiet and stayed in my lane. Very fortunate that she fudged the shit out of that grade for me. No matter how high up the chain you get, nobody really knows what's going on. Everyone is winging it for any work that falls outside their very specific area of expertise. Honestly, the more of an expert you become in your field, the more you realize how much you are winging it, whether you're a higher up or not. Don't get me wrong, you're making informed decisions. But a majority of the time, you are picking the best option, given the information you have. You won't actually find out until later if it was the right option. Recipe for Coca-Cola. Ingredients: citrate caffeine 1 ounce, extract vanilla 1 ounce, flavoring 2.5 ounces, detailed below, FE cocoa 4 ounces, citric acid 3 ounces, lime juice, 1 quart sugar, 30 pounds water, 2.5 gallons caramel sufficient. Flavoring: oil orange 80, oil lemon 120, oil nutmeg 40, oil cinnamon 40, oil coriander 20, oil neroli 40. Alcohol 1 quart. Let stand for 24 hours. These are all in US imperial measurements, and the flavoring units are in minims or mins. 1 min is literally 1 drop of liquid. That flavoring section, combined with the vanilla extract, is what is collectively known at the company as 7X, the ultra secret 7 things, which make the flavor. The alcohol is only used to extract the flavors, and doesn't end up in the final drink. I worked at a golf course, and we only sold Pepsi products. By accident one day, I put some Pepsi in my cup that had a little chai tea in it, and it tasted a lot like Coke. Whenever a customer complained about us not having Coke, I would make them my secret recipe, and most of them were pleasantly surprised. Makes sense now, because of the spices in your recipe. Vehicles are offloaded from roll-on, roll-off ferries, aka RO-RAs, in a specific order, for weight and balance reasons. If you are nice to the crew, and give us cookies, you will be offloaded sooner. If you are verbally abusive to the crew, you will be offloaded last. Dead last. For weight and balance. I'm repair tech at Chuck E. Cheese. There are some games we can adjust the payout for, and some we can't. We have a number called ticket per play, or ticket per tap, that we have to try to maintain. Every game and ride is adjusted somehow, so we can get to that average number. The length of the ride is, so you will tap your card more or less times. Some games have fixed ticket payout we can't adjust, so we adjust other games, up or down, to get the whole average to that magical number. If one game we can't change pays out 4 tickets on average, and the number we want to reach is 6, for instance, I would adjust another game that can be adjusted to 7 or 8 to compensate, because the boss only cares about the average payout on a whole, not on the individual games, unless it's insanely high or low. If a game is cheating you out of tickets, we probably did that on purpose, to compensate for something else. This also goes for the claw machine. We can control how often it pays out. Tickets can be bought at 1 penny per ticket. If you drop a quarter into a token machine, if it doesn't pay you 25 tickets, you're better off just buying tickets. No, we don't reuse pizza. It's cheaper and easier to just make another one, since we get the ingredients in bulk. It's just that we cut into smaller slices, so it's harder to do right, plus, the kitchen personnel usually doesn't care about making it look perfect. No, the job isn't fun. My job is to make sure you have fun. My job is stressful. One of my best days ever was when I took my kid to Dave & Buster's. They do the digital tickets there. You play the game, then insert your card to collect the points. Anyway, the place was pretty dead when we were there. I noticed one game that said there were points to collect, so I swiped the card and didn't pay much attention to how many points I collected. I didn't even have a very good idea of what a large amount of points were. So, we finish up playing and go to get some prizes. To my surprise, we have like hundreds of thousands of points. So much that the person at the prize counter has to call their manager over. He asks me questions about the card, etc., looking at me suspiciously. I tell him about the game that I collected the points from. We go over to look at it, and it is incrementing points up automatically and quickly. Basically, it was broken and loading on points. It's your lucky day, he said. We got all sorts of stuff: glasses, toys, electronics. It was probably like $350 worth of stuff. Like actually $350, not Dave & Buster $350. The places you put your parents, even the more expensive ones. Independent and assisted living. Most are owned by investors who really don't care about your loved ones. Especially the larger corporate ones, with multiple units in different states. Some people are paying thousands per month for the bare minimum of care and facilities. The shit I see and hear will make your skin crawl. I'm a hospice nurse, and some of the most expensive fancy-looking ones were the worst. Some of the poor-looking older buildings had the best staff and happy residents. Don't judge a book by its cover is so true. Your massage therapist doesn't care about your size or your body hair, but they appreciate when you've showered within a few days of your appointment and have brushed your teeth. They aren't judging you for the things you feel self-conscious about, but they are judging you if you are an entitled a-hole. Saying things like, "My wife would not be happy if she knew how hot you were," although it may seem to you like a harmless compliment, is creepy and will get you on the "do not schedule" list. That one shouldn't be a secret, but apparently there are men who are oblivious to this. I worked for FedEx Trade Networks, clearing custom shipments, and almost anyone buying anything over $800 or stuff from China and a few select other countries have to provide what's called a 5106. A 5106 is a form the US government uses for duties and tax purposes and shit, but on the form, you need to provide a social security or ID number. We started working remote in 2021, and on my work computer from inside my house, with nobody being able to ever know, I had access to hundreds of social security numbers, addresses, names, and everything to easily steal identities. That's not even the kicker. This is an entry-level position, and anyone can work it, and have access to this shit. If you import personally from overseas, and need to provide a 5106, you're better off getting a LLC, to avoid the very high possibility that some dipshit FedEx hire doesn't snap a photo of your 5106 form from his phone. Right now, mass transit agencies in most cities in the United States are dealing with massive shortages of drivers, mechanics, and many other administrative positions. The drivers are working 70+ hours every week just to keep the system going. Drivers need a CDLBW/P endorsement, therefore, there is nothing illegal about working a driver 17 hours a day. Therefore, transit agencies are forcing drivers, per union contract, in most cases, using inverse seniority, to work constantly. It's a huge safety risk, but no one seems to care about that. Depending on the specific deal and artist, Ticketmaster splits all those fees with the artist, sometimes at 100%, in addition to the face, door, price. Plus, the artist gets a guarantee. The fees are part of the price of the ticket, and Ticketmaster takes the heat for the high prices, so the artist can look good for the fans. Source: built the software Live Nation used to book these deals. Ticketmaster is the bad guy, is part of their business model. They absorb the bad PR instead of the band or performer. They are literally monopolizing their role as a sink for bad reputation, while also raking in exorbitant fees, which might otherwise make the band look greedy or bad. Optometrists will not give you your pupillary distance, PD, after an eye exam, even though they measure it, to make it difficult to order glasses online. Check with your state's Board of Optometry. I got my prescription from like a Lens Crafters, or Vision Works, or something, and they refused to give it to me. They lied to me, and strung me on, and pissed me off so much, I called the Board of Optometry, and got confirmation that they couldn't refuse to provide it to me. Once they've taken that measurement, it becomes considered medical information, and they cannot refuse to share your medical information. Turns out, if you start asking for license numbers, and mention CCing the Board of Optometry to explain the issue, it's suddenly no longer an issue to provide upon request. Edit, specifically the opticians are, who gave me trouble. PD is not a required field on an optometrist's RX, but is required to order glasses, so it's the opticians who sell glasses that usually take that measurement. Whether they have to give it to you upon request or not is state specific, so again, check with your state's Board of Optometry or equivalent to understand the specifics. In corporate culture, the IT staff can be your best resource or your biggest enemy. They deal with idiots all day, so say hello and treat them nicely. Not only when you have a problem. Bring them some donuts or something randomly. They don't forget, and will take care of you next time you have a computer crisis. I've gotten new monitors, extra keyboards for home, cords, whatever I needed, because I took some time to say hi and ask how their day was going. Same with the maintenance or facilities team. There are two teams, you want on your side. Food expiration dates, especially on shelf-stable foods, are essentially arbitrary. Nutrition labels are often wildly inaccurate. It is technically not legal to use false information, but it's very, very rare to be caught, unless you are making health-related claims. Those food certifications that you see on food labels are provided by for-profit companies that bill you monthly, so they are highly incentivized to certify as many companies as they can, and actively ignore violations. A shocking number of ingredients that are illegal or heavily regulated in other developed countries are perfectly legal and mostly unregulated in the US. The same companies that make store brands at higher-end stores, like Wegmans and Whole Foods, make them for cheaper stores, like Walmart and Aldi. I could go on. With the advancement in lab-grown diamonds, in the past few years, even the most experienced gemologists can barely distinguish them from mined diamonds. Don't waste your money on real diamonds anymore. ETA, yes, most, if not all, lab-grown diamonds have an inscription, which is how a jeweler would know the difference, though these can be hard to find immediately, as they're very small. But I mean, from a quality standpoint, it's very difficult to tell, and lab-grown tend to be better quality, clarity, color, cut. So, if I, a jeweler, can't tell until it's in a loupe, the average person definitely can't. The proper lab-grown don't have the bright blue fire that Masonites do, which gives them away. Also, I worked at a jewelry store for years, with a very experienced gemologist and goldsmith, whom I am still friends with, and have had him tell me these things. I also took a lot of diamond and jewelry training while I was there. I'm not just pulling it out of my ass, LOL. All the most famous living artists have workshops full of people who make the art for them. They spend their time choosing concepts, talking to their gallery reps, and schmoozing buyers. The only time they touch the work is to sign it. Similarly, there's a very strong chance your favorite author uses ghostwriters. Unless your favorite is George R.R. Martin, whose publishers probably effing wish he'd let them bring in ghostwriters, so they could finally sell you The Winds of Winter, or J.K. Rowling, because if a ghostwriter turned in text so riddled with adverbs, we'd be replaced with a more competent writer. Source was a ghostwriter. Not a particularly high-level one, but I wrote a couple of minor bestsellers before I packed it into languish and obscurity under my own name.